Hello everyone, it is Joe here from Omnipoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon, and today we are looking at Gyarados, the worst kept secret in the history of the Pokemon trading card game. Everyone was hoping that this deck could fly under the radar, and in the first opportunity at Orlando Regionals, everyone pretty much brought it. So yeah, this is a pretty fun, cool archetype. We held off on it just on the off chance that no one was picking up on Gyarados, but clearly everyone has been. Yeah, it's a very efficient attacker that can dish out big numbers, so we are going to be having a look at it today. Another great thing about the deck is, as you can see, it's very budget, so for all of you beginners out there, this could be a really good start for you. So let's jump into the deck. First of all, the 4-4 Gyarados line. I'm actually going to start with the Gyarados. I think it's more important and you'll understand from there how the deck functions. 130 HP is fine. The Theta Double is allowing us to attach 2 tools. It's not relevant in this deck at all. We are not playing any other tools than Floatstone, so we never really get the effect of this. It's just something to note, maybe in the future for building Gyarados if need be, if new tool comes along, stuff like that. But really it's just the attack full retaliation that we look at here. For a double colorless energy, we do 30 damage plus 30 more damage for each damage counter on each of your benched Magikarps. So that means if you have one Magikarp with 2 damage counters on it, you're doing 90 damage. If you have 2, that's 150. And if you have 3 Magikarps all on the bench with 20 damage on them, you're doing 210, which is enough to knock out almost every Mega Rain format right now. So pretty much everything relevant you get through with just a double colorless energy. On a stage 1, that's very, very efficient. We don't worry about Thrash, we don't even play water energy. The lightning weakness is a bit annoying. It does become a problem. There's a few relevant lightning types out there. I'll talk about the matchups later on, but clearly lightning is going to be awkward. So yeah, next up we have the Magikarps. The reason I say the Magikarps will only have 20 damage on them is because we only have 30 HP. So obviously we can't have any more than that unless we play something like Fighting Fury Belt, and then you can play something like a Rainbow Energy to get an extra 30 damage on. That's a cool option, but I don't think it's one that you should really incorporate. So yeah, Magikarp just chills here on the bench most of the time, and of course we need at least one to evolve up into the Gyaradoses. So the way that we're going to keep our Magikarps on the board is just by spamming things like Buddy Buddy Rescue and Puzzle of Time to recover our Magikarps every time a Gyarados is knocked out, or if the opponent goes for like a Lysandre play to deal with just a Magikarp on its own. So yeah, that's something to bear in mind. We just have to cycle and make sure that we have a full bench of Magikarps, 3, and then the 4th Magikarp will be the Gyarados that we're attacking with, which really doesn't give us much space for other bench Pokemon. It means we only have 2 slots. So these slots are going to be filled by, firstly, a Mr.Mime. Mr.Mime has the bench barrier ability, so that we prevent all damage done to our bench Pokemon by attacks. Of course, having 3 Magikarps all 10 HP away from being knocked out is very, very scary if there are spread damages around there. Think about one swoop across from a Golbat will take 3 prizes, and there's no other way that we can, this is the all-in approach that Gyarados has. We will simply lose if we get hit with a swoop across, if not for Mr.Mime. Additionally, things like Spinder, even Yveltal Break could be something. These sorts of snipers would really be an issue if not for the one-off Mr.Mime, so very important card. Also, things like Galvantula from Rainbow Road, they can take easily 2 prizes on Carps, so we have to deny that sort of thing. Next up we have a 2-2 line of Octillery. Octillery has the Abyssal Hand ability, allowing us to draw once per turn up to 5 cards in hand. This really helps out. This is a big combo deck, so having a constant 5-card hand is going to be very helpful. The opponent can't end you into a really low hand and really be too disruptive, because we can always get back up to 5 cards to hopefully dig for things like Double Colorless, more supporters for the turn, stuff like that. Puzzles to an extent as well, so it means we can't be disrupted in that regard. If they're going to play a Hex, it means that we don't have Octillery, but we have the remaining hand size, so it's really nice to have this sort of coverage. And also because our bench slots are so precious to us because of the amount of Magikarps that we need, I think it's more important to have one bench slot for something like Octillery that can draw us a lot more cards over the course of a game than just one Shaymin EX, which is good turn 1 but then just sits there. especially because it's an EX, and one of the biggest reasons why this deck is functional right now is because you can play all non-EXs, get away with it, and in fact be very, very good as just an all non-EX deck. So it's really awkward for other decks to play around. Even the non-EX focus decks, most of them will be playing, you know, at least one Shaman EX, so you can sometimes jump ahead against pretty much everything with just the likes of Lysandre. So there we go with the Pokemon. You can see just 13 Pokemon and only 4 energy. So the deck is, you may think that it has a lot of space in terms of the trainers because we're playing a full 43 count. But I think the list is really tight, believe it or not, because there's a lot of things that you absolutely must have in this deck to make the Gyarados work. So let's look at these cards now. First of all, one town map. Our damage output is capped at 150 if we prize just one Magikarp. So if some of you watched the stream where I think it was Bob, he prized 2 Magikarps, I think, and he pretty much played the town map, saw the Carps, conceded, because he's not going to win by doing 90 a turn. I guess he could fall behind and then get those prizes back, but he was in a rough matchup already, because I think a Giratina was set up, something like that, so it was really awkward for him. So town map is going to really help us pull out Magikarps. Maybe we take a cheap couple of prizes on a Shaman EX, we get our 3rd Magikarp, we're ready to go. I mean our 4th Magikarp. There we go. Town map, very helpful. Again, things like Puzzle, things like DCE, are one-off Ranger. These are important to have access to. We do have the one-off Special Charge. We are focused on just 4 DCE, so we need to recycle these at times so we can have a more long game approach and force the opponent to actually go through 6 physical Gyaradoses, at least in theory. We do have 1 Super Odd so that we can recover some Pokemon. We do have 3 Buddy Buddy as well to complement this, allowing us to get Magikarps directly into the hand after a Gyarados has been knocked out, but overall the Super Odd allows us to get, you know, obviously more things at once, so we can get multiple Gyarados and Magikarp back, so it really relieves the pressure on Buddy Buddy to just be for Magikarps instead of needing to be extra Gyaradoses. That's kind of why we play the 4-4 count as well. I've seen a few Gyarados players playing 4-3, and it really just detracts from the point of Buddy Buddy in this deck. You want them to be exclusively find a Magikarp, put it back onto your bench, really. It saves you playing 4 Buddy Buddy, so I'd just rather have the 4th Gyarados, because that's what you want to draw into more often than not, at least in the early turns. That's what makes sense to me. So the 1 Super Odd's going to make sure we can get back plenty of Gyarados as well, so that we can keep the 3 Buddy Buddy Rescue that we play exclusively pretty much for Magikarp, because it's pretty important to maintain our high output with this deck. Next, we have a few 4-ofs. We have 4 Level Ball, finds everything in the deck excluding Gyarados. It's obviously very important to find as many Magikarps as possible, so that we can use Magma Secret Base just the one time. We don't have to worry about the opponent replacing our stadium, because we can just go Magikarp, Magikarp, Magikarp. They've all got the damage, that's all we need. So you want to have as much as opportunity to find your Carps as possible, so maxing out the Level Ball is important, as well as being our draw engine by finding the Octillery. And then we have the 4 Dive Ball. It does the same thing for everything, except this time we're excluding Mr.Mime. Mr.Mime doesn't have to come out in every matchup. He can just chill on the bench in the matchups that are relevant. So Dive Ball is easily the best search card that we have in this deck. 4 Trainer's Mail, so that we can get into our high amount of trainers that we are playing. Again, it's really important to find the Magma base before we start finding our Magikarps, because the sequencing otherwise would be off. We need to put our Magikarps down when we can damage them, so the Magma base does that for us. So Trainer's Mail basically gives us access to Magma base. First of all, that's the most important thing to find if you haven't already, and from then you've got to find your ball search, you've got to find your supporters, etc, etc. We do have the 4 Puzzle of Time. It's a really big part player in the deck again. It can serve kind of a role as Special Charge in terms of recovering Double Colorless. It can recover Magikarps just like Buddy Buddy can. It's just more recovery. This deck is all about cycling just the one stage 1 that we're playing with, and every single time we need to get back a Magikarp. So again, it's just a really important card in my opinion. It combos really nicely with the 2 teammates that we play. We can easily play out our 4 puzzles all at once. I mean, like, you can play 2 sets of 2, but like in the majority of games, rather than having to waste 1 just to look at the top 3. Normally we want to get the double access with these guys, and things like 2 teammates and the lack of discard that we have in this deck. We're playing no Ultra Ball. Sycamore's our only discard card, so we can really protect these puzzles quite nicely in this deck. And then we have the 4 VS Seeker just to respam our supporters, pretty standard stuff. A lot of the time you're either going aggressive with prizes with Lysandre, or you're going to be spamming teammates every turn, because teammates gets you the guaranteed cards that you need. With this deck you rarely need like more than 2 cards. You need to get like a buddy and then your Gyarados pretty much, or like your DC and your Gyarados, something like that. And of course you're going to have a hand already. You've got Octillery to draw you cards, so the teammates is supplementary, getting you those extra pieces that you really need to get so that you continue with the Gyarados. That's really what we're after here. So like I mentioned, we are playing 2 Lysandre, just going to help us get into those EXs or otherwise annoying Pokemon so that we can race as effectively as possible, stuff like that. We are playing the 2 N as well. N is going to help give us a bit of extra shuffle draw in the early turns, which is important, and because we do have low HP basic Pokemon, we can fall behind sometimes, and N is going to again help us shuffle draw, maybe disrupt the opponent, stuff like that. If we've had a slow start and we've somehow missed base and stuff like that, we have to really put our strategy on hold for a turn, so N is going to help us stabilize most likely. 2 teammates is a really integral part of the deck. It's just easily my favorite supporter in this deck for sure, because it's pretty much all you need. It grabs you the puzzles, it grabs you, which then gives you access to like everything, but it also just grabs you DCE, Gyarados, Magikarp, whatever you need. It really helps this deck tick over very, very nicely. We have the 1 Pokemon Ranger, because we are very focused on 4 double colorless energies. It's our only energy in the whole deck. We're not playing anything like Enhanced Hammer or Jirachi promo, so we have no other means of dealing with Giratina. What we have to do is we have to Ranger, then attach the DCE, and hopefully we have enough damage on board to get through a Giratina all at once. Fortunately, it only has 170 HP, so even with a Fury Belt, Gyarados is able to hit KO it, which is very nice for us. So as long as we have the right setup, we can Ranger through a Giratina. It normally takes a couple of turns to set up a Giratina because of its energy cost, so we can be fairly chilled out. Although Giratina is a pain, because we have 130 HP, it's fine. Do bear in mind though, a lot of the time we will be down to 110 HP because of our own Magma base hurting our Magikarps. As we go through the game, we have to evolve into the damage carps, of course, to carry on attacking, which means that 110 is the right number for Chaos Wheel, so it is kind of awkward sometimes. Do bear that in mind. Although it says 130, oftentimes you're going to have damage on you. Here are the... Oh, sorry. First of all, for Sycamore, I've said how important it is to keep every resource in this deck. You really don't want to discard things, but sometimes you just have to. You have to start well. You have to get drawing, start finding things. Sycamore is still very effective at doing that. We can't use teammates on turn 1, unfortunately. And you can't use anything like Bridget because they go directly to the bench. Otherwise, Bridget would be like an amazing setup supporter for this deck. Because Bridget goes directly to bench, and Magma base states that it has to be from hand to bench the Pokemon. So bear that in mind. Sycamore's like the best turn 1 option we have still. So yeah. Next up we have the 4 secret base. You want to max this out because it's super important to have it whenever you need to put down a Magikarp, which is like all game, right? So we have 4 of them to max them out to always win the Stadium War. And on top of that we have puzzles to guarantee even more that we win the Stadium War. Not only do we need to win the war, we need to constantly be winning the Stadium War. So yeah, Magma base is very important in this deck. It's how we get all of our output, and it's why the deck functions in the first place. We are playing 2 Floatstone. I've considered dropping 1 float and just putting in 1 escape rope, because then you can maybe puzzle back the rope for extra usages, but really the puzzles should be for other things. So at the end of the day, I'm happy enough with just 2 Floatstone. You sometimes have to put them on a Magikarp if they're going to actually just stall you to limit your output, but again, you can just evolve into another Gyarados and attack, but obviously you're doing less damage this time. So bear that in mind. You sometimes can afford to just pay retreat with a DCE with most of our dudes, so it's not the biggest issue in the world, but Floatstone is obviously going to help us. Slap it on Octillery or Mr.Mime or something between turns when we do suffer knockouts, and it saves us a bit of headache. So yeah, the 2 float I'm comfortable with. And finally, just the 4 double colorless. Of course, we need it to attack and, like I was saying, retreat as well. So that's pretty much the deck. A couple of other options for you. I don't know if I have this card. I'm pretty sure I don't. Meowstic EX. Let's see if I have it. I'm pretty sure I don't. Oh, I do. Okay, Meowstic EX has the ability Shadow Ear. And once during your turn, if this Pokemon is your active, you may move one damage counter from one of your opponent's Pokemon to... No, sorry, one of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So, naturally, because of our stadium, we're going to have our own damage counters on us. So, in between turns, you put a Floatstone on this guy. You can put an extra counter on other things. This means you have access to 2 20 HP Megas. Very, very niche, but it does sort of save you against Rayquaza to an extent. I believe you're still fine against Rayquaza, to be honest. You have enough turns to win the Lysandre game a lot of the time, just dealing with Shaymin EXs. So I really don't think that the Meowstic is required, because it means that you have to play an EX Pokemon yourself, and that can punish you in other matchups, especially just starting it in random situations. So I'm not a fan of the Meowstic. I can see it being cool, but I think it's just a non-consistency card that you don't really need, and again, it fills up a bench space that you don't really want that happening to you as well. Shaymin EX is a card that obviously you could be playing. Definitely not that one. That's not what you want. You want this Shaymin EX potentially as a one-of. I think never more than a one-of in my opinion. Again, this deck thrives on being all non-EX for the most part. If you are going to play one Shaymin EX though, you have to change the ball counts around a bit. You cut down the level ball count and throw in Ultra Balls so that you can get more consistent turn 1s. This deck is more turn 2 orientated because we are of course stage 1, so we won't attack anyway turn 1. Basically the process is just to get as many cards down turn 1 and pass. Turn 2 you dig for Octillery, you dig for your DCE and whatever else. So we don't really need the explosion of pace that Shaymin gives us unless our hand is very dead. That could very much be the case, so bear that in mind. From there, other Pokemon you could be playing, one of them is going to be Klefki as a one-off. You can spam this with, all the buddies that we have and all the puzzles that we have, so even a one-off, this could be very cool against your Mega decks. I think for the most part, you're fine against the Megas. We hit the nicest numbers possible, pretty much. So I think it's not 100% necessary, but this could be a one-off option for you. On to supporters, we are not playing Hex Maniac, and in my testing, really Hex is gonna bail you out against a couple of things. Like the Greninja matchup is pretty grim. Really, we try and do as much output early on as possible. That's our win condition. We just try and race the Greninja in terms of going so far ahead that they can't even come back. If they do get a break evolution, maybe they get one, then they KO a Magikarp on the bench, or they either commit their attack and the ability to 2 Carps and take 2 prizes that way. That's with the Lysandre, of course, as well. Or they commit everything to just a 1 Gyarados. So even when a break is set up, it's not too big of an issue. They sort of catch up a little bit, but even then, we've had so much time to set up our own board, and we can recycle so effectively that I think it's not really an issue to play the Hex or not. But of course, it will save you a bit of headache against that matchup. I think Bats is already a lost cause. I know there's only Gold Bat in format, and really that's only played in Raichu Bats, which is already niche. And Raichu Bats is already a hard matchup for you. I think the 1 Hex isn't enough to balance it out, and I don't really see the space for 2 Hex Maniac in this deck. So at the moment, we're going without it. It could be a cool option, but I just don't see the space, to be honest, right now. I think Bursting Balloon is also a decent option for you. Again, even as a one-off, because we have Puzzle, you can get use out of this card. It can bail you out in awkward spots when, for instance, you've prized a Magikarp. It means you're a bit less all-in. You deal that 150, you put a balloon on yourself, and then your opponent has to Lysandre around you. Or they have to pass the turn or whatever. Otherwise, they're going to suffer that 210 amount of damage with the attack plus the balloon hit. For the KO, so that can give your opponent a bit of a headache, even as a one-off, like I say, just to figure out some maths and sort of protect yourself from awkward prizes losing you a game. Enhanced Hammer is another card that you could consider, again as a one-off. Just again, we have the recycle of puzzles, so why not use one of these, because they're pretty good against, a whole variety of matchups. The dark things often play either Double Dragon for the Giratina, which is, you know, a bad card against you. I mean, like, it's a good card against you, so you want to deny them the use of Giratina. Also things like the other dark variants that use double colorless energy, so you put them back in attachments. Mewtwo uses DCE, so many reasons why Enhanced Hammer as a one-of could be good, which you have access to spam when it's going to be helpful to you. So again, that could be a cool option. But for now, I've just gone for the consistency build and in the hope that that does enough for the Gyarados. So let's save this deck up and we will be jumping into the ladder now for some games. I do think this is a good deck, and yeah, it's a very fun playstyle as well. So hopefully we get some good games in here. In terms of matchups, although I put the weaknesses as ability lock, that's only really for the draw power of Octillery. We still get our damage output quite nicely, so really for everything that Gyarados plays, it's just going to try and race. It's going to go, ha ha ha, let's put loads of Magikarps down and let's smash you in the face. And that's just how it goes, really. Either you're able to do it or you're not. And judging by the amount of success it got at Orlando, it's very effective at doing what it does best. So hopefully we get some good games in and can demonstrate the power of Gyarados. And let's flip the coin and see what happens here. It really is more of a case of, can you set your own side of the board up, and you really don't care what your opponent has on their side of the field. So it's quite well, it's not the most interactive of decks in terms of your playstyle. You're always going to try and do the same thing. This is the most beautiful hand I've ever seen with Gyarados. If we get end, I'm actually going to be so upset. This is the best hand I could ask for. And we're up against a fire deck. Oh, please. Oh my goodness, this is ridiculous if we get this working. Okay, so it's Volcanion. We see a Trainer's Mail. For a Sycamore. Good. Play the Sycamore. Play the Sycamore. That's all I ask. Don't Trainer's Mail for an N right now. Okay, goes for a Fury Belt. That gets attached to the Entei. And we see a third Trainer's Mail. No! No, not N. No! Oh, that's ridiculous. That's the best hand we'll see all day. Ah, see, this is a problem. We've encountered a problem, everyone. We don't have Secret Base, so now we have to Sycamore away a lot of Ball Search cards. We can use one. Actually, we can use two. We can get a second Remoraid, and we can get one Magikarp that doesn't need to be damaged. So really, we only lose one Dive Ball. But, damn, that hand was so tasty beforehand. If we top deck Secret Base now, though, I'm, again, just over the moon. So, the opponent got a Max Elixir on as well to the bench. And it is our go. We do not top deck what we need, which is a shame. Oh my goodness, that's 3 Buddy prized and a puzzle. That is gross. That is really gross. So Entei can actually threaten a knockout next turn. It's got 2 Fury Belts on. And of course it has the power up of the Volcanions chilling on the bench. So I might well just level ball out a Carp and a Remoraid and pass. I really don't think that's that bad of a turn. I think that's absolutely fine. It means that we can do an awkward Sycamore next turn, but we can guarantee ourselves Octillery. So that's the idea here. We don't explode until turn 2 with this deck, so it's not too big of an issue, but that hand. It was the dream. It really was the dream, the more I think about it. So he actually attached Double Colorless to the bench Entei. Not sure if that's the correct decision, because now he's relying on like a switch plus Elixir. We do see an Elixir. That fails. So I'm really not sure about that decision. Yeah, we see a pass. That's a real lifeline for us, to be honest. We can Float Stone, we can Dive Ball, and we'll take the... Yeah, we'll take Octillery. We will attach Double Colorless to our Magikarp, And we have to end here because all of our Pokemon recycle is in our discard, so there's no point in Sycamoring. We do find Magma bases, but we only have Trainer's Mail so far. We do have potentially one draw from Octillery. There is Dive Ball, which we will take. So we can Magma base, find ourselves a Magikarp, get some damage on it, and we can draw one here. Looking really for another Magikarp, I think, would be the best. Just Gyarados, so we can actually push for some damage at least. That's actually a pretty good one. So we're doing the 90. Is that enough? No, it's not enough to get a knockout, but I think it's worth the pressure here for sure. We'll just go for the full retaliation. For 180, thanks to the weakness. And we'll see how this Entei can respond. There's the manual attachment for turn. We see an Assault Vest on the benched Entei. And we see Flame Screen for 50. So we see another Dive Ball, perfect. That gets us another Magikarp, that's all we need. And there's not much else we need this turn. I don't feel like ending because the opponent didn't have much. So we'll just Abyssal Hand for 1. See if there's anything else we need. Just another VS Seeker, so we're pretty set here. And what single prize do we want to take? I think just Buddy Buddy's the safest thing for next turn. Yep, that seems like what we want to take. The opponent's not threatening a knockout on us, but there are elixirs in the equation, so anything could really happen. And with enough steam ups, the opponent could get going, so I think that's worth a go. Obviously, this deck does have a positive matchup against Volcanion, thanks to weakness. Other matchups, really, like I was saying earlier, it doesn't really worry about much. Just kind of get itself set up is its biggest headache. We do see an attachment to the Entei. There is one steam up. So doing 30, 40, 70. So yeah, the second steam up will get the KO, I believe. Yeah. There is the Parallel City, so we'll just get rid of Remoraid. And we're going to see a setup. And we do see the flame screen, just for the 80, the perfect numbers. We'll promote Octillery with the Float Stone, of course. So we need to... I'm going to level ball first. Obviously, we're not going to play this Magikarp down yet because we haven't got the stadium, but we will have better odds with these Trainer's Mails. We hit double puzzle, which is beautiful. And I think before I play the puzzles, I want to use this mail. Because if we can get a secret base, then I can just go Gyarados DCE and be very chilled. Alternative, if we get like a dive ball, that's not great. We can take Sycamore though, so I'll double puzzle now. And we'll take Magikarp and the stadium. I believe that's what I need. No, I don't need the Magikarp because we already have the damage. Even with the flame screen, I believe. He's 210. Yeah, easily. We'll take the DC over Gyarados because we still have... Actually, all of our dive balls have been used. Okay, so it's much of a muchness. But we have Buddy Buddy, right? So we have that one Buddy Buddy that we recovered. So we have slightly increased odds of getting the Gyarados over the Magikarp. So we can bench, get that damage on board. I think it's worth Abyssal Handing for 2 here because the Sycamore's so large that we may not get value. Oh, there's 2 cards we really don't want to draw into. There was a downside to that Sycamore. That was the most punishing Sycamore could have been right there. We can evolve up. We can retreat. And while I have the option, let's Buddy Buddy. The opponent gets to choose, of course, before us. There's their Entei back. We'll take Magikarp back, put it on the board while we still have the stadium. I could even... I'm going to play this level ball out just to get the Mr.Mime out of the deck. There's a debate to still evolving a Gyarados now to protect ourselves from an N. Because we're always going to do enough damage with just 2 Magikarps, because that's 150 up to a 300. So there's definitely a reason to do this. I'm going to hold the Float Stone, and we're just going to full Retaliation for the 230 with the resistance of, what's it called, Assault Vest, applying before weakness and resistance. I believe it's before. Yeah, we just see a concede. Gyarados has a pretty good time against that deck, and the opponent didn't really have a board state to respond on a Gyarados. Even then, if they did, we have the Buddy, we have supporters to play, stuff like that. So, got a nice little taste of Gyarados. You saw the dream hand get taken away from us. That is just brutal. But we still managed to do okay. And we'll get into another game. And we'll see what else can happen. The opponent is flipping a coin here. I might just make this a little bit smaller so you can actually see my deck size and stuff. That's something I didn't take notice of. There we go. We have not the best of hands here, but one that we can deal with for sure. Having to lose a puzzle early is kind of awkward, but we'll see here. The opponent is playing a dark deck with Enhanced Hammer, so that's something to bear in mind. We will draw from the mulligan. We get the stadium, which is lovely. We see an attachment to Darkrai turn 1 from the opponent so that they can threaten the KO on this Magikarp. They Trainers Mail out Lysandre. And they do just play the Professor Sycamore. Getting rid of a couple of energy early isn't ideal. They also choose to get rid of a Float Stone. They are playing the Garbodor build, and they also have that Giratina in the back as well. So we will Dive Ball. I think I'm still content to find a Carp over a Remoraid here. Because we basically, just because we have Secret Base, we'll play Trainer's Mail and all Pokemon and Energy. That's far from ideal. We'll put down the Magma base, put down Magikarp. I think I'm actually going to commit the energy to the benched one, and we'll just Sycamore. We do find ourselves another Magikarp, which is cool. We have the Buddy for next turn. We have the teammates as well, so we can easily get a nice response here. Only awkward thing is that we couldn't find a Remoraid, but we can live with that. The opponent's playing Garb anyway. It's their priority to get that out, so it's not too big of an issue that we've missed it. The opponent does play the Lysandre for the Magikarp with the DC on. That's only natural. And we get hit for 60 for the first prize of the game. We can go into Magikarp. And let's unleash the power with a Buddy Rescue. There is our Magikarp back. And we'll play teammates. We'll get ourselves our Magikarp. And we'll get ourselves DCE. And then the opponent is out of energy. And again, you can just see that turn 2 pressure is ridiculous with this deck when it comes off. It's pretty good, it turns out. Let's use full Retaliation and completely destroy Darkrai EX for 2 prizes. Plucking out a Gyarados and a VS Seeker. The more VS Seeker the merrier, because we can keep getting that teammates value. And until that point we can just keep smashing. We do see the DCE onto Giratina and the Fighting Fury Belt. We see the Scoundrel Ring, obviously punished for that 20 damage. It sometimes can be relevant against, again, these 220 HP Megas and anything like Darkrai that can Fury Belt up to 220, taking that 20 is really good for us because now we can put it in range with Gyarados. Everything taking a bit of an abuse right now, so Shaman can set up for 3. Let's see if they get any more Max Elixir on board. Haven't seen any yet. 4 Dark in the discard though is pretty awkward for them. There's another Fury Belt. Despite it making no difference to the maths. We see a Sycamore. The opponent does replace the stadium, limiting us by 20 damage. So that actually is relevant. We are going to see a Super Rod. Getting some of those Dark Energy back. Maybe increasing their Elixir chance. But no, just a pass. So we want to replace the stadium so that we can Lysandre this turn. So finding a stadium would be great. No such luck, so we'll just grab ourselves Level Ball, trying to set up a Remoraid. I think I still Lysandre for a KO this turn. Almost definitely. Because this Giratina can't one-hit KO us. So I'm not even that threatened. We'll just go down to 2 prizes casually. See what the opponent has for that. Let's see if they have any good response here. They really need to hit us with an N. They need to Chaos Wheel. Even an N though. I don't even know. Oh, they don't even N us. We're in such good shape. We have the Lysandre for game. Even without the stadium, thanks to our own stadium doing damage. Here comes some elixirs, so the opponent's done everything they can, but we've just gone ahead and won in 4 turns because Gyarados just hits that hard. And that's all she wrote for the game, folks. That is complete and utter destruction from Gyarados. That is absurd. Absolutely absurd. Yeah, that just happened. Dark Tina, Garb, one of the most played decks in format, just got destroyed in 4 turns, and there was literally nothing he could do. Gyarados is pretty good. Let's find another game. That's a great name. Fairy. F-A-E. So let's flip the coin, and this has been running pretty much like clockwork so far. Good to see. Let's see if we can get another good game in. Still not got a better hand than that opening that we had last time. We are up against Mega Gardevoir. Fortunately, it does have 210 HP as well, and that's well within our range. They don't play any sniping. There's not too much of a headache for us again, hopefully. And this is a pretty nice hand. Again, no stadium in the opening. It's really what we want. But hey, we can live with this. We have Town Map in our opening hand as well, which is really helpful sometimes. And we will play Town Map instantly. Have not prized any carps at the very least, but there's some nice prizes to pick up throughout the game, I feel. We can play the Level Ball. I'll just grab a Remoraid. I'm not worried about getting knocked out here because he's likely playing Elixir. No, he's likely playing Mega Turbo over Elixir. So I could just pass. I think I want to. There's an off chance that he ends or something, and losing Buddy in 2vs is kind of awkward. So we'll just pass for now. We can get value out of that Dive Ball. There's a Wonder Energy onto Gardevoir. An Acrobike. Spirit Link on board. Dive Ball, sorry, not Dive Ball, Ultra Ball. They do play Fairy Drops. I feel that's not really a problem for us. There's Hooper. And there is going to be a big old Scoundrel Ring, I imagine. The typical team have arrived. Team Gardevoir EX. Some lovely Life Leapers. I wouldn't mind if they dealt 20 to a Magikarp at all. The opponent's going to set up. Not much else they really need this turn. They do find the Hex though, which is a little bit annoying. Oh, we pick up the base. Nice. Okay. Magikarp o'clock. And it's a painful Sycamore, but we got to do it. We could get a crazy good turn, but that is not the hand for it. And this is where the inconsistency comes in. Last game, we were dealing 2-10, turn 2. Here, we deal 0. Let's pass. And the worst thing is, losing another Magikarp that's free of damage means that this one is essentially like lost in the process as well. We have to find this one and 2 more Carps just to respond KO. The Hex had no effect on our turn, but still, that's pretty painful. The opponent goes for Skylar for a Spirit Link. We do see the Mega for turn. And we see the attachment to follow up. And a Mega on the bench as well. And there is big old Despair Ray. But we're not in despair yet. We will... there goes the Hooper and the Shaman. This hand is unfortunately one that we probably have to end. We do find Level Ball. I'm going to go for Magikarp over anything else. Because at the end of the day, that's what we need. We'll attach and we'll end. The opponent was happy enough to just Skylar, so they're holding onto a hand anyway. Not worried about them having just 3 cards. That's really good. That's a really good end for us. We will play the Trainer's Mail here. We find Dive Ball. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Because now we can go Magikarp. Put in Octillery. Put the Float Stone on. I think I'm putting both on so I can dig for a Buddy Buddy here. We'll find our Gyarados now. And now we need Buddy Buddy, or we need Double Puzzle. Dig, 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 dig. Ooh, Trainer's Mail. Let's play the Dive Ball. No, let's not play the Dive Ball. Kind of want to, but it's so inconsequential, and this is really useful next turn, so I won't. Buddy Buddy. So again, we're putting the opponent in such an awkward spot now. Such a brilliant pickup for us. We do gift them back either Hooper or Shaman, so that's awkward. So they can most likely get going again next turn, but they need to hit Mega Turbo and Attachment for turn just to respond on this one prize Pokemon. And we're going to be picking up teammates anyway. So it all looks pretty dandy. There is the big old 210. Absolute destruction. I think I'm just taking teammates VS here. It just sets me up so nicely. So in comes the other Mega. Let's see how they can respond. Even if they do, they probably have to N as well. Just to be in the game, really. Because this hand is so good for us right now. There's a response with the Stadium. Not too big of an issue. We see a Xerneas. We see a Trainer's Mail. Didn't see what they found, so I was looking at the discard pile. My bad. There's an attachment for turn. do we see... There is Mega Turbo. Maybe that's what they found. So they do have a response. There's the Shaman that we buddy-buddied back to them. Drawing them 4 cards. Something that God of War can actually choose to play is a single copy of Absol. Absol is really, really good against Gyarados because it not only takes damage off one Magikarp, but it gets a KO at the same time. So it nullifies 2 Carps all in one ability. So if you're worried about Gyarados as a Mega Guardi player, you can play Absol. Fun fact, it's really good. We're going to see a Super Odd in the meantime. And just a Despair Ray. They choose to get rid of that Shaman EX again. Pretty good that they can... We always have to feed them Shaman EXs back into their hand, basically, because they can just buddy-buddy it back. So we have everything that we need. We can use the Stadium. We can get the Dive Ball for a Gyarados. We can evolve up. We can attach. And we can teammates. And we'll just grab Buddy Buddy. Or we could just go double puzzle here. I'm actually going to go double puzzle. Because it's much harder to get the double puzzle in hand than it is to get just a single Buddy Buddy later on. So we'll get the double puzzle. That means I can get DCE back, and then I'll take a Gyarados off the prizes and be absolutely set for next turn as well. So we take Magikarp, and either we take Buddy Buddy or DCE. I think Buddy Buddy might actually be more valuable here. I can still teammates next turn to get things back, but we're running low on the Buddy Buddies. So I think I'm going to do this instead. We'll then Abyssal Hand for 1. Get Trainer's Mail. I'm going to play this out just to... Oh, we can use Special Charge. That's pretty cool. I think it's worth just getting 1 back. There's no real... Because it's all the X's that we have to face, basically we can just put that back in for now. We won't really ever get more value out of it. We can just go for the full Retaliation. Get a huge big knockout. We'll take the Gyarados and we'll take Sycamore to end proof as best we can. And again, the opponent's in a case now where they have to find Spirit Link, Mega, Attachment and Mega Turbo just to respond. And they promoted Xerneas just out of fear, really. They find the Break. They attach for turn. Do they have the N? If they don't have N, this is all a moot point because we have Lysandre in hand. And this just trades so ridiculously well against DX Pokemon. It's just so crazy. Gyarados is just running through everybody's lives right now because it seems like people haven't caught on even after Orlando that you need to counter this to beat it, really. Everyone's going to tech one Spinder. Not really. Spinder's not really good enough because Mr.Mime. But there are definitely ways to beat the Gyarados. Things like Absol have really good abilities. So that could be cool. We are going to see the Spirit Link and the Mega. They have attached for turn. So now they need Stadium double Mega Turbo. But that doesn't look like it's on the cards. Just a Geomancy. So we don't have game in hand. Because we don't have DCE to retreat. We've already committed both of our float stones. So, what will we do? Oh, we do have game, right? With 2 Magikarps, we're dealing 150. What am I saying? Oh no, we don't have game. Again, I'm silly. Hold on. I was like, wait, I still don't have the DC in hand. I was going to Lysandre Shaman, but that's really completely wrong. I really don't see any reason to play anything. I'm fairly content just to pass here. We're so ridiculously far ahead. I think passing is fine. Basically, because we have this 4 prize cushion, it really doesn't matter. If he attacks with the live stream, we can just Lysandre KO for games, so yeah, pretty chilled out. In terms of a race, Gyarados is just way too effective at reaching the high numbers. Really crazy. It's always been worried about things like bats, which are way less played now, and it's also really scared of things like Manectric, had Overrun, which was very good. But with those things gone in the format, there is a lot of space for Gyarados to do well. And I'm really demonstrating that it can just stick its way through so many decks right now. It's really crazy. And we are doing it in style here. Never really submitting anywhere near enough prizes. It's just if it sets up or not, really. That's the biggest headache for it. And today we've done well. We didn't prize any Magikarps in our 3 games. And we set up fairly consistently. We just played, you know, the list is consistent. So that's all we really need. A huge thank you to Charlie for allowing me to use his stadiums for this video. It meant I could get it out today and not have to wait to get the trades working and stuff like that. So cheers for that to Charlie. Leave a like to this video if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And get in the discussion below about Gyarados. How do we beat this monster? It hits so hard. Let me hear your thoughts down below. Can it still compete now that the secret is out? Although there was never really a secret about Gyarados. People are actually going to start countering this card, and I'm not sure if it can cope. So let me hear your thoughts down below. For now though, it has been Joe from Omnipoke, and I will see you guys next time.